The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, go Cowboys! This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco. Now, your hosts, Vach Lombardi, Nick Harris, Bobby Belt, Tommy Yarish, and Kyle Yeomans.
Today is Tuesday, January 27, 2026, and we are live from Mobile, Alabama, 86 days away from the NFL Draft in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Welcome to the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite. It is officially Senior Bowl week. We are back in the Mobile Convention Center alongside my partners in crime, Tommy Yarish and Nick Harris. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Scott Purcell is behind the camera. Shout out to Scott for getting us on the air, setting everything up early this morning because, gentlemen, getting here was not easy with the ice the storm and everything that's going on in Dallas. First off, hope everybody is staying safe out there in Dallas-Fort Worth. I know as the ice is starting to melt, you guys are starting to move around a little bit. Stay safe because it was treachery getting here, both from an airport standpoint and from a driving standpoint. But we made it, and it's nice to be here and kind of feel like the draft process is now continuing as it should.
Yeah, this is when the draft officially kicks off. I mean, this is one of the more fun weekends all year here in Mobile, and a pretty good crew this year that I'm excited to dive into with you guys.
Yeah, it's this is all worth the travel stuff, right? I think it really is. This is a really fun week. It's great to catch up and sit down with some of these players. It's a really unique experience for us. I enjoyed it a lot last year, so looking forward to get the same experience under our belts again and then go watch these guys compete.
The real hero of this week is our pilot on American Airlines Flight 1785. He said, hey, I'm about to time out, but guess what? I'm not leaving. And he stayed, and he ended up taking the flight out of Dallas and got us here safely. He's the real hero. I don't know his name.
I would have run through a wall for him. I appreciate
He came out and gave
so
a literal
much.
victory speech.
Yeah,
it was incredible.
Well-deserved.
Nick was sitting just at a restaurant nearby waiting for us to get here. You didn't have any problems getting here.
Yeah, my flight was delayed 20 minutes. Theirs was delayed 8 hours. I felt bad. Somehow I was supposed to take off after them, and I got here before then. But,
it's all your
but
fault.
On a day's work.
It's unbelievable stuff. Yeah, and you talked about the crew that's here. It's a who's who of the NFL that is in Mobile as part of the Senior Bowl. I mean, we were walking by. We saw former Dallas Cowboys offense coordinator, now head coach of the New Orleans Saints, Kellen Moore, it was mulling around behind us. You've got all sorts of staff members and coaches and players that are all kind of here as part of Radio Row. We are going to talk to as many prospects this week as possible, but because of our travels, we may only get one or two today. We'll see. But, Nick, when it comes to the Senior Bowl, what's the number one thing you're looking for this year if you're either a part of the Cowboys or just a part of the draft process in general?
Well, we can talk from the Cowboys' perspective for sure. I mean, these two first-round picks you would assume are going to be used on the defensive side of the ball. We've said it a million times. I think you can make the case that 90% of these picks are going to be used on the defensive side of the ball. So which of these defensive guys really shine against premier offensive talent, whether that be in the secondary or on the offensive line, defensive line? We'll talk about some of those matchups that could work out for some of those guys. But, you talk about Romello Height out of Texas Tech. Came in yesterday a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller than expected, 6'2.5", 234 pounds, is already going to be battling the factor that he's old for this class. He's coming out of his fifth year out of Texas Tech, went to 3 different schools as well. How much does that really play a role into his potential draft stock? And then you look at a guy like Colton Hood, the cornerback out of Tennessee. Daniel Jeremiah had him mocked at number 12 to the Cowboys in his mock draft on Monday, which that's a whole different conversation. I think if that scenario plays out where Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, Mansour Delane, Ruben Bain, David Bailey, they're all gone before 12. Hey, man, get that parachute and start getting on the phone. But nevertheless, Colton Hood's going to be another fascinating one to watch this week. And there's so many guys, even on day 3. I like Bud Clark out of TCU as a day 3 safety. If they feel like they need to swing on one there, I think he would give you special teams upside on day 1, and then would maybe be able to play himself into the conversation of playing at that position later down the line. But really good talent here so far.
Yeah, there's incredible talent. I mean, one of the guys that Nick was really high on, and we talked about him on the show, was Dennis Sutton, 6'5", 268 pounds out of Penn State at defensive end. It's interesting. I'm interested to see how that frame holds up because I think that he still needs kind of that next step in his development in terms of rushing with more of a plan and things like that. But the physical frame is there. The tools are there. It's can you put it all together? And then some guys we were talking about yesterday, Kamari Ramsey, the safety from USC. You and I were talking about on the flight.
Yeah.
Kamari Ramsey and safety USC, Bishop Fitzgerald, safety USC. And which kind of guy do you like more? I think Fitzgerald gives you a little bit more of the deep coverage stuff, the ball skills and things like that. Ramsey can kind of still be rangy. Want to see him attack the run a little bit better, but it's two really good players at safety. So it just kind of depends with where these guys fall and how much they raise their stock this weekend, because we could be talking about a day 2 guy with Kamari Ramsey and Bishop Fitzgerald, or if scouts are like, hey, we didn't like what we saw. If that drops them back into day 3, then maybe things are back on the table for the Cowboys, because remember, they don't have a day 2 pick as things stand. Now, I'm with Nick. I think if they're in a scenario where it was with Jeremiah's mock draft, where all your guys are gone and if your best player available right there is Colton Hood or something along those lines, and that's no disrespect to Colton Hood, I think you're trying to drop back, parachute back, pick up some more capital, and see if you can load up on these guys that are kind of similarly stacked between 20 and 40 or 50 or whatever it ends up being.
I think it's interesting you brought up the two of the guys that you and I wrote about yesterday on DallasCowboys.com. We had a players to watch article, and Dennis Sutton is one, because you always see it at the Senior Bowl, these edge rushers, these big-bodied edge rushers that may not have had the same production you anticipated with super high expectations. I mean, he was a 4 or 5 star prospect considered going into his time at Penn State. Then he turns around and he has a decent year, but he wasn't necessarily jumping off the page from a tape standpoint. Now you get a chance to go up against these guys and really show what you've got and really try and take a step forward. So you have a chance for edge rushers to show a little bit of that time period too. I think when it comes to guys like Dennis Sutton and maybe the safety group in the secondary, where do you feel like the talent is with this Senior Bowl class specifically, and who stands to make maybe the biggest jump whenever the draft comes around?
In terms of just secondary, I think there's plenty of guys.
Well, as a position group, do you think the edge rushers are the more talented?
I'm sorry.
Secondary was more talented. Where do you feel like there is the most talented?
I really like the secondary class here. I think there's a lot of guys that had solid college careers that everybody's kind of in the middle about, but they really want to see up close in this kind of setting. Chandler Rivers from Duke is one of them. Chris Johnson from San Diego State is another one of them. Obviously, Colton Hood from Tennessee, we talked about him. Malik Muhammad from Texas. I think there's a long list of guys that you can look at this corner room and say, okay, if we feel like we need to see more here. Davis and Igbenogson, Ohio State, another one.
Dalen Everett, Georgia.
Dalen Everett from Georgia. See, that's what I'm saying. The list goes on, and it's so many guys that can just shoot up this cornerback board if there's a run on them or if guys really like them. So there are a couple guys on this list that I already like, and I'm looking forward to seeing some more. And I'm sure it's going to be the case again with NFL scouts too.
Yeah, the edge rusher group, it looked promising last week, but Reuben Bain and David Bailey have since bowed out, which is probably smart for their own stock. But, there used to be a point in time where it didn't matter where your stock was, you came to this game.
Yep.
I am going to throw that out there. Nothing against David Bailey and Reuben Bain. It's probably smart business decisions at the end of the day, but it hurts my soul a little bit. But if you look at the D-line group, we still have T.J. Parker to talk about. Came in at over 6'3.5", 263 pounds. Thought he'd honestly be a little bit heavier, but I wonder how that size is still able to play into his favor this week. Again, we talked about it last week. It's not a fantastic tackle class that they're going to be going up against here, and even the premier tackle that I think guys are going to be hunting down, Jennings Dunker, the tackle out of Iowa, who could go late 20s, maybe into the 30s. He's more of a run guy, so this pass protection is probably not his strong suit, and I wonder if they play him at tackle or at guard, because I think he's a guard at the next level. So I wonder how these offensive linemen fare and which ones end up being the guys that the Romello Heights, the Dennis Suttons, the Zion Young out of Missouri start to hunt down as the practices go along, because every year it's like, hey, give me that tackle or give me that guard. He's the guy that's whooping feet right now, as our great friend Voch Lombardi would say. And so I wonder which one ends up getting hunted. Levius Overton or LT Overton out of Alabama, that's another one I'm excited to see this week. Also where he lines up. He came in just under 6'3", 278 pounds. I think he has that versatility to play up and down the line. I wonder how that works in his favor. defensive tackle that I saw mocked in the first round by Daniel Jeremiah yesterday that I'm really excited to get eyes on now that he has that type of stamp on him is Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked so much about Romello Hyde, David Bailey, even Jacob Rodriguez a little bit, not anything about Lee Hunter yet. So 6'3.5", 320 pounds. You know, how does he fare this week? Excited to see what these Texas Tech defenders can bring.
Yeah, I'm kind of just real quick on Hunter. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing him too because my initial viewing of him on tape wasn't that great. I think he was good against the run. He has the ability to stack and shed, make those splash plays. You saw it. I think it was the first play of the game against Oregon when I was watching that. But he kind of still can get moved around and nullified on double teams as opposed to eating up those blocks and opening things up. So I'm interested to see what he does here this week and see if he can prove me wrong a little bit.
And we've seen some defensive tackles take over the Senior Bowl in the past. I mean, defensive tackle, defensive line. I remember Perrion Winfrey was a 3-tech here for a while that ended up playing really well, and now he was on the Cowboys this past year. Didn't have the career that we anticipated when he was coming out of Oklahoma, but still somebody that made an impact. Then you go all the way back, of course, Aaron Donald and what he did here stood out and is still legend around Mobile, having him show out the way that he did and then end up in the career that he did.
No love for Mozzie?
Mozzie, and I mean,
I don't think he was a Senior Bowl guy. I just feel like throwing that out there.
I'm
being messy this morning, that's all.
Yeah,
Thanks, Nick.
You caught me off sides, yeah. 5-yard penalty. One thing that I love about the Senior Bowl is the vast array of different talent levels that these guys come from to where they are now. And a lot of the smaller school, group of 5, D2, D3 prospects. Nick, I'm going to look at you for this one specifically.
All righty.
Who are some of the small school guys that we're going to look at the end of the week and say, wow, they had a phenomenal week in Mobile and they made themselves some money?
I don't know how he's going to fare this week, but I do want to start off with this name, Charles Demmings, coming out of Stephen F. Austin. The Cowboys, they typically do their due diligence at Stephen F. Austin. They picked up a corner in the undrafted ranks last year from SFA, and Bruce Harmon had a decent camp before he got hurt. Charles Demming is a Mesquite Horn product, so I wonder how he fares this week and maybe stamps his name as a draft pick. But going up to the G5 ranks, Chris Johnson, the corner out of San Diego State. I think he's a day 2 guy. I think so. And so I'm, again, fascinated to see how he plays in this environment. That's what's so big for these guys is, the G5 or the D2 or the FCS is getting here and showing that they can go up one-on-one against the Ohio States, the Notre Dames, the Michigans, Texas Tech, whatever. It's crazy that Texas Tech is in the conversation. Shout out to Joey McGuire.
Yeah.
And show that they belong. And so those are a couple, but it's funny because I thought Stephen Jones actually mentioned it in a nutshell not too long ago in the season end press conference. Yeah, the season end press conference. He was like, so many of these guys hit the transfer portal whenever they do shine at these small schools and end up at these bigger schools. So we're probably not going to spend as many resources scouting those smaller schools. But there still are ones that have huge senior seasons and rise. Delby Lemieux, offensive lineman out of Dartmouth, that's another one that's here. And then Nadame Tucker, kind of an edge outside linebacker out of Western Michigan, had a really good year for the MAC champs, and the Cowboys obviously have Western Michigan ties, and so I'm fascinated to see what Nadame Tucker does this week. I look at him as a day 2 type of guy as well.
Yeah, Tucker was the name that I was going to throw out there too. He had 14.5 sacks this past year for Western Michigan, so that would be the one.
That was one of the better group of 5
that
defenses
would be
in the country.
That would be the one for me, that from the smaller schools that's catching my eye.
Yeah, I was looking at John Carroll, wide receiver, Tyron Montgomery.
Yeah, he was a late ad.
He was a late ad, somebody there that I haven't had the chance to look at yet. But John Carroll, where is John Carroll? Do you know?
I don't. This is one that is really like pulling out the
University Heights, Ohio.
Okay, so it's in Ohio.
And hey, Tyron Montgomery's from the Woodlands, Woodlands, Texas. So
he's a Texas product. No wonder he's good.
Then hold on. This is kind of a fascinating career. He started his career as a basketball player at LSU.
Okay.
And went to Nichols State to play college football, and then ended up at John Carroll. So. Yeah, fascinating.
So did we just discover a wide receiver that we should be looking at this week?
Yeah, you know what? Let's try to get him on an interview. I want to hear his story.
Okay, I'll send a late email along with the other name that you just told me right before this that we needed to add to our interview list. We've got a lot of interviews coming up over the course of the week, like we said. When we come back, we're going to do some Twitter on the 20, and then we're going to talk to Ephesians Pryock, the defensive back out of Washington, former Husky and former Arizona Wildcat as well. We're going to talk to him about his journey, how how he got here to the Senior Bowl, and then we're going to continue our coverage. Here from Radio Row, it is the Panini Senior Bowl here in 2026 from Mobile, Alabama. Once again, alongside Tommy Yarish, Nick Harris, I'm Kyle Yeomans. We'll be back with more of the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite right after this.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're maxing out overhead presses, pushing through chest flies, or being the hero your golden retriever needs to carry them over that scary bridge, Smoothie King has the fuel to help you go all out. Build muscle and boost your recovery with 45 grams of protein, 0 grams of added sugar, and delicious customizable ingredients in the Gladiator Smoothie. Available in chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Only at Smoothie King.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with pre-game sideline access and photo ops with current players, cheerleaders, and Cowboy legends. You want to stay at a team hotel, attend the best tailgate party in Texas, tour the Star, and talk X's and O's with me, Everson Walls? With Star Sports Tours, you can. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
How about them Cowboys? And how about them Jimmy Dean breakfast bowls? Keep your game day celebrations going with real eggs, potatoes, cheese, and our savory Jimmy Dean sausage. And with 22 grams of protein per serving, you'll have enough energy to power you from early morning to the final whistle. The no-hassle, ready-in-minutes prep makes it easy. Just heat, eat, and cheer on those Cowboys. Get yours today. Jimmy Dean brand is proud to be the official protein of the Dallas Cowboys.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here on Radio Row in Mobile, Alabama, alongside Tommy Yarish and Nick Harris. I'm Kyle Yeomans with the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite. Now joined by Washington corner Ephesians Pryock, and I have to say, Ephesians is one of the more unique names we've ever had on the Draft Show. But you don't just go by Ephesians. You go by Ephi. You go by a number of different nicknames. Where does, of course, from a biblical standpoint, but where does Ephi and Ephesians come from?
So my mom told me that it just came to her in her sleep one day, and that's what she ended up naming me. But my parents do go to church, pretty religious, so yeah. And then Ephi is just like short for Ephesians because a lot of people can't really pronounce my name.
At some point, they've got to just read, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's part of it. But, yeah, we're excited to have you here on the Draft Show. Of course, you had a great career at Washington. Started, in this day and age of the transfer portal, bounced around originally from California, though. Talk about your journey to get here and to be a part of this Senior Bowl week.
Man, it's been a pleasure. All glory to God, man. I thank you to the whole coaching staff that I started with at Arizona, starting with Coach Fish, to Dwayne Walker, who was my first cornerback coach in college, to John Richardson. And it's been a pleasure, man. And then those guys went to Washington, and I was right behind them.
Yeah. And you actually covered Ephesians in
way
high school back in the day. That's the Nick Harris sicko that we've talked about plenty of times before, right?
Yeah, absolutely. At Bishop Alamany, it was you and Nuafi Tui Halamaka. Yeah, I came out for one of those COVID games that y'all had during the spring way back when. But, no, I want to talk about your journey from Arizona to Washington and following that staff, not only you, but Takario Davis as well.
Yeah.
Y'all being together, how much did that benefit your development? And I guess here, talking about this last season at Washington, you're one of these longer boundary corners. How can you parlay that into an NFL future, you think?
I think just using my length, my size, my speed, plays a big role in a lot of getting my hands on guys in the league and different things like that, and just being able to slow down routes and mess up the quarterback's timing and different things like that. Plays a big role in the league.
What are you trying to prove this week?
Just how I could play off, how versatile I am, how I could play inside corner and different things like that.
That position versatility is so important. And especially with you and Takaria, like Nick mentioned, two taller, longer corners. How beneficial do you think that was for your entire defense as a whole? Because I can imagine with the press man stuff that you guys did that it's kind of hard to throw to the outside when you've got two guys with similar builds and statures kind of in that mold on the outside.
Well, now we got two long guys on the outside. You can't just choose one because one's shorter or one's taller. So, you got to throw at either one of us, really. The ball's not just going to go to one side all game. It has to go to both sides. So, you know what I'm saying? It's been great playing with Takario Davis. That's my guy, man. Great cornerback.
What do you feel like separates you from some of the other corners in this class?
Just, like I said, being versatile, being able to play multiple positions.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different areas that Dallas is looking for in that secondary. Before we let you go here, what would it mean for somebody like you to be from the West Coast? I know there's a lot of Cowboys fans out there. I don't know if you're one yourself, but what would it mean for you to play for an organization like that and probably get some immediate playing time in the secondary?
It means a lot, man. I feel like I could go out and have an immediate impact on any team that I get picked up by, and I feel like I'm something special to the organization.
There you go. Ephesians Pryock from Washington, a cornerback here at the Senior Bowl that's going to go places here in this 2026 NFL Draft. Excited to see where you go, and thanks for taking some time with us.
Appreciate you guys.
And more of the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite right after this.
Cowboys fans, when it comes to navigating the ever-changing world of tax, your business needs a partner it can trust to tackle even your biggest tax challenges. Ryan is the largest firm in the world dedicated exclusively to business taxes. Our team of tax professionals has local expertise in all areas of tax and can help you uncover savings opportunities you didn't know you had. Learn more about how Ryan can improve your overall corporate tax performance by visiting Ryan.com. Ryan, the official tax partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're maxing out overhead presses, pushing through chest flies, or being the hero your golden retriever needs to carry them over that scary bridge, Smoothie King has the fuel to help you go all out. Build muscle and boost your recovery with 45 grams of protein, 0 grams of added sugar, and delicious customizable ingredients in the Gladiator Smoothie. Available in chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Only at Smoothie King.
How about them Cowboys? And how about them Jimmy Dean breakfast bowls? Keep your game day celebrations going with real eggs, potatoes, cheese, and our savory Jimmy Dean sausage. And with 22 grams of protein per serving, you'll have enough energy to power you from early morning to the final whistle. The no-hassle, ready-in-minutes prep makes it easy. Just heat, eat, and cheer on those Cowboys. Get yours today. Jimmy Dean brand is proud to be the official protein of the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here from Radio Row in Mobile, Alabama, host of the Senior Bowl here in 2026. Back alongside Nick Harris and Tommy Yarish. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Time now for some
Twitter on the 20.
On the 20.
I don't know. Somebody might edit in something later, but
That's going to have to be edited. That's going to have to be edited.
Come on, it wasn't that bad.
We don't have a sounder or a soundboard here. That's okay. It's part of it. All right. Mike wants to know.
What up,
Mike
Mike?
wants to have a scenario here. Sit, start, cut, right? Or start, sit, cut. Out of these three players, Ruben Bain, David Bailey, and Arvell Reese. Three of the top prospects that we've talked about plenty on this show already. Who would you start, who would you sit, and who would you cut? Tommy, we'll let you start.
I'm going based on my board, so I'm sticking to my board as it stands right now. I'm starting David Bailey.
Okay.
I'm sitting Arvell Reese, and I'm cutting Ruben Bain with so much pain in my heart doing
Wow.
so.
But you have them all as, what, top 5 guys?
Yeah, they're all top 5.
Yeah.
Bailey is 2, Reese is 4, Bain is 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm starting Bain, sitting Reese, cutting Bailey, and it hurts.
Okay.
It hurts. I don't think there's a wrong answer to this question.
There's not a right or a wrong answer either way. And it's funny that you said it this way, you said it this way, and I'm going to say it in a different way. I'm going to start Ruben Bain, so you and I agree there, but I'm not cutting David Bailey. I'm sitting David Bailey, and then I would cut Arvell Reese, which is a painful thing for me to do because I love Arvell Reese. And, of course, linebacker is a big-time question mark for this team. But give me the edge rushers all day, every day. I'll make it work outside of that.
I love all three of those guys.
They're incredible, yeah.
I love the positional versatility with Reese. I think you could line him up off ball. You could bring him off the edge. I think he's probably going to be more of an edge at the next level, honestly. I see him serving kind of a Nick Bonito role at the next level.
Okay. So, hey, good question, Mike. I really like it. This name, I'm just going to say it's Hippie. That's what his name is on Twitter.
Okay.
It's really interesting outside of that. He literally says, please tell me you see Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker from Texas Tech. We haven't seen him yet, but we also have only been
We
here
are hunting
for a
him
little
down
bit.
for an interview.
We have requested him. We're going to try and get him on the show.
Sounded
We'll see what
threatening.
happens. Yeah, he said, please tell me that you've seen Jacob Rodriguez. All right, how about this? John wants to know, when it comes to the center position, says, I wasn't impressed with Cooper Beebe last year, which there was some up and down. I get it. I don't know if I agree there completely. But he said, are there any centers in the draft class or in the Senior Bowl class is where I'm going to lead this question. Is there any center opportunity for Cowboys to look at or anybody that you would even consider to replace Cooper Beebe?
Yeah, I think there are some. Well, first off, no.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second. And
Sure.
Let's say that they want to find depth at the position. Jake Slaughter out of Florida is one. Parker Brailsford out of Alabama. Those are the two guys that are here for Senior Bowl purposes. But a couple of other centers that I like in the class, Iapani Lalualu from Oregon, and then Pat Coogan, your Rose Bowl MVP, damn it, from Indiana. Those are I think it's a pretty solid center class. It's not the best. It's a lot like last year's where you probably won't see your first guy get taken until second, third round, which last year it was I think it was the third round whenever we saw.
Kind of similar to what you saw last year?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very similar to that.
Okay.
I would guess Slaughter is probably your top center.
Out of Florida?
Yeah, Slaughter out of Florida. Thank you. I'm good with Cooper Beebe. I had no. Sure, you're going to get up and down, but I mean,
I think he had
not to a point where it's like, okay, we need to start looking.
Exactly. I think he had a tough season. I don't think it was a perfect season. Is it something that you need to move on from at this point in time? Absolutely not. Don't do that. And I get the frustration.
I don't even think it was a tough season.
Yeah,
he had some tape. He
Yeah, but it's his second year in the league. He battled 5 weeks of a high ankle sprain and lateral foot fracture that he had to play with the rest of the season. Maybe so.
That sounds like a tough season to me, battling through an injury and having a back half of the year where you weren't necessarily impressive.
But if he's playing like that while he's coming back from that, I think I'm okay.
You'll feel okay.
And the other thing too is
I'm there too. I'm just playing.
If Brock Hoffman is still around, then yeah, you don't really. I don't see the need for Dallas to draft another center.
Okay. You guys mentioned this earlier, but Matt wants to know or with all of the opt-outs, who had a better level of talent, the Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl? Because we've had the chance to kind of check out both of them so far. I know my answer, but I'll start with you.
Yeah, certainly Senior Bowl. And that's nothing against the Shrine. I thought the Shrine had a pretty good crop this year, but it's not as much round one talent in these games anymore for, again, like purposes I mentioned earlier with business-related. But there's a lot more day two guys here in Mobile.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And, again, I think this was the best Shrine Bowl group I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
And so commend really both of these teams that put this together. They do a really good job of finding guys and getting them all to play together. But this is a good Senior Bowl group too.
Yeah, I think the gap is closer this year than it has been in years past, and that's nothing against either one of the groups. I think the Shrine Bowl is continuing to get better, and I think the Senior Bowl remains the standard of the All-Star games at this point in time, and it'll continue to be that way, I think, until there's a seismic shift across the way. There's so much buzz around the building. Even this morning, we haven't even had practices yet. They barely had meetings so far, and there's already more of a buzz around this event. and what they're doing because of the certain names and prospects that are in attendance here.
Right.
So good question, but yeah, it's still the Senior Bowl at this point in time. You had a question that you were.
Yeah, I was kind of excited for this one. This one comes from Sean. What's up, Sean? Who are some players we're not currently talking about at 12 and 20 that could shoot up the board after the Senior Bowl and Combine? I picked this one because I have a guy, and I'm really excited about it.
Go ahead, because I'm fine.
Brandon Cisse, the corner from South Carolina.
Okay.
I am telling you, I think we are going to get to a point where after the Combine, we are talking about Cisse at 20.
Interesting.
I think that's going to be very realistic. I think he's going to test really well at the Combine. Unfortunately, he's not a Senior Bowl guy. I would have loved to have seen him here, but he's tall, he's long, he's going to run really well, and I think this is going to be a guy that's going to shoot up those boards, and the Cowboys are going to seriously consider him at 20. Well, maybe not even just the Cowboys. I think NFL teams are going to look at him a little bit higher than maybe they would in the past. I obviously can't speak for how they see him on the board, but I really like this kid out of South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw. Do you have any?
I had two guys that came to mind. One of them is already it kind of doesn't answer the question, so I've got to back up. But Colton Hood out of Tennessee is a guy that now has been mocked to the Cowboys because Daniel Jeremiah had him there at 20. That was a name
12.
He was there at 12?
He was there at
even
12.
more so. So I don't see him there. I probably am going to slot him maybe as an early second-round graded player on my board when it's all said and done. But he's here at the Senior Bowl. He could certainly talk me into it by having a great week out here this week. I still think he's an option for Dallas at 12 or 20. I would say 20, but I guess 12 there too. If that's the conversation, that would, in my opinion, be sneaking up into the conversation initially. So that's one. The other one we talked about last week, and that's the edge rusher and Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M. I just think the traits, the level of production that he had was good enough in the SEC. I think he can take a step forward in that regard as well. But there are so many things that he does well. I find myself gravitating toward Dallas liking him. Him and Keldrick Falk out of Auburn are those two edge rushers that kind of fit the mold that Dallas has always tended to lean at. Big-bodied, SEC, uber-athletic type of guys, and I think they could possibly be in that conversation.
Yeah, I'm going to throw a few names out here. I'm going to start with Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon.
Yeah.
He's starting to land in the back end of the first round.
What did you say a couple weeks ago, Thieneman or bust?
If it's not Caleb Downs, Thieneman or bust. I like A.J. Halsey too, so I'm going to throw A.J. Halsey in there. I'm being funny now, but I like both of those safeties. But if we're talking Dylan Thieneman, I think that's a guy – 20 might be a little rich, but if you trade back in that first round and pick up some draft capital, certainly makes a lot of sense. I'm a big fan of Dylan Thieneman, the way he plays the run, the way he covers space. Huge fan. Keith Abney, I'm going to throw his name out there as another corner out of Arizona State. It's long, but at 6 foot and long, which is really encouraging, and then has the speed and athleticism to be able to play outside or inside, which I'm a fan of. And then there was another one in here that I just had that I lost track of, but Anthony Hill out of Texas. A fascinating career. Coming into the year was thought to be, a surefire top 10 overall pick and regressed this past season, dealt with some injury, granted, missed a couple of games, but just wasn't as productive as he was as a sophomore down in Austin. But I think he's a type of guy that this draft process plays right into his skill set, whether it be from a skills perspective or at the combine and a testing perspective. So I think he could play his way back into the back end of the first round.
Where do you guys throw, I don't know if he's even a first-round conversation guy, but I think he can, since we're talking about high risers in the Senior Bowl, I watched a little bit of Davison and Igbinosun out of Ohio State.
Yeah.
Is he a borderline second-round guy first, or is he a 2-3, or is he more of a 1-2?
I think he's a 2-3. I think that first of all, I love Igbinosun, the corner from Ohio State. I love him. I think he's tall, he's long, he can run, he's aggressive. He plays his hair on fire.
Dude,
and
he is so fast.
Sometimes that is great, and it's awesome at work. Sometimes it comes to bite him a little bit. But, I mean, that's what I want from my corners. I want those guys that are juiced up, that are fired up, that are confident, and every rep, even when they get beat, that they can go back out there and make another play. I think what I commend Igbinosun for was 2024, he led the country in pass interference called against him. I think it was like 20-something. It was a ridiculous number. And he cut it all the way down to like 6 this past year. So is that great? I mean, no, you never want pass interference called against you. But for it to be that drastic, and he really put in a lot of work on it is what I've been told. And I think it's paying off. So I think this guy is absolutely a day 2 pick that anybody would be happy about. Certainly it would be great, I think, for the Cowboys.
See, and part of why I even asked this question is because I really like him, and I don't think he's good enough to go at 12 or 20. But now we got to just start a complete smear campaign to get him to day 3 because we don't have any day 2 picks. So
Right.
I think we need to find a way to get him to the 4th round, and let's make sure it
We'll
happens.
We'll see him. We'll see him here.
I think he's going to be a steal of a player at the cornerback spot initially.
Real quick, I want to go back to Anthony Hill. This is for the panel. Are we overthinking this a little bit with Anthony Hill? I think he's a really good player.
I'm trying not to. I'll say that.
I
Trying
think
not to overthink it.
Yeah.
I've got no problem with him at 20. I've got no problem
20.
with him at 20.
Yeah, I think he certainly could play himself into that conversation too. And even I still think, if you trade back in that first round, he's still going to be a guy that's there for you.
Right.
But I'm with you. I think he's just a football player, and football players, they play
What's
a
the
long
pause
time.
on him? Like, why do people? Is it just injuries?
Limited length, limited athleticism, which I get. But I think he's going to lay down some times at the combine. I think he's going to show his athleticism at the combine to where it can kind of nullify a little bit of those concerns.
Yeah.
But it's really the size, and that's going to be. That's what I wonder about. Is he an off-ball linebacker? Is he an edge? There's going to be questions about that. Maybe he's just a tweener. But I think he's just a football player. I think that's his position, and I think he's going to be just fine.
All right, where do you feel like Ephesians Pryock out of Washington is going to go?
Long corner, 6'4", one of the longer corners in this class. Can put bets on the table right now that he ends up in Minnesota or Washington. One of those two places. They love their long corners. But, he was originally on that Arizona team that played really well a couple of years ago. Tetaroa McMillan, when he was shining over at Arizona, he was there. Then Jed Fish, the head coach at Arizona, moved over to Washington after Kalen DeBoer went to Alabama. And a lot of those players went with him. Ephesians Pryock was one of those guys, West Coast guy that stayed on the West Coast to go to Washington. And him and Sicario Davis combined for one of the better cornerback duos in the Big Ten this last season. I'm a fan. I think he's a day 3 guy comfortably, and it could make sense for this team. I think the Cowboys have kind of run their course with those long corners. Even Nashawn Wright, a guy that's turned into a Pro Bowler, didn't quite work out for this team. I think when you look at what Christian Parker, who new defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, what you look at the corner that he has developed over the course of his career, he has gone typically for the standard 6 foot, 6'1", 6'1.5" corner who has the long length in the arms, not necessarily the bottom half. And those guys have quick hips, fluid movement. I don't think Ephesians Pryock necessarily fits that mold.
And you think about the Parker guys as they're kind of, I'll say, compact for lack of a better term too, in terms of they're filled out in their frame. You're not really getting these longer limbed guys who aren't maybe as full in their frame like a Nashawn Wright. You left out the Bears, by the way, as a team for Pryock. That would probably
that's very true.
Sense.
Yeah.
But no.
If Alice ends up there and stays there.
and that's there's no right or wrong. It's just kind of what mold you feel like fits your defense. And I think with Christian Parker, you think about Patrick Surtain, you think about Quinyon Mitchell, you think about Cooper DeJean, those kinds of players. They are still tall and they still have the long limbs, but they're not as vertically tall, and they have more muscle on them and still can run and still can cover and do all those things. So there you look at more of these guys that are compact in terms of they filled out their frame and they carry the weight well.
I'll tell you what, a Christian Parker corner, like when you look at him and you look at the corners that Parker has developed, Dalen Everett, he really does kind of fit that mold. I'm very fascinated. Out of Georgia. That's another guy that I think could play himself into some first-round conversations. I'm a big Dalen Everett guy, so coming from that Georgia defense, I'm a fan already.
I'm glad you guys reminded me with all the lack of sleep and everything that we've had to get here. I forgot about this is the first draft show we've had since the official hiring of Christian Parker.
Yep.
So we'll have that conversation probably tomorrow and talk about what those types of guys would look like, kind of play that into what we're looking at here in Mobile. But when we come back, we're going to talk to Ephesians Pryock, and then we're going to wrap up the rest of the draft show. More to come from Mobile, Alabama, and Radio Row here at the 2026 Panini Senior Bowl. So the Pryock will be self-contained. We'll have 3 breaks as opposed to 2, and then let's just wrap up the show and get going.
How long here?
5 minutes. Cool. We're already pretty long.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Ready, Tom?
Yeah, sorry.
Here we go. In 3. Stop texting your boss, dude.
I'm trying to figure out
It's
work.
unbelievable. 3, 2, 1. Final segment here on Tuesday of day 1 of the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. Back alongside Tommy Yarish and Nick Harris. I'm Kyle Yeomans. It was cool to kind of see the connection, Nick, that you had already built with Ephesians Pryock. It's happened a couple times previously.
That happened last year. Didn't that happen last year? That happened last year. I completely forgot about that.
I thought somebody walked behind us with that. I was like, what in the world?
Since it's so early in the segment, it doesn't matter. That's funny. I was like,
I was wondering if we should have just kept running with it.
I was going, if it would have been late in the segment, I would have ran with it. But since it was so early, we could just re-intro.
I needed to happen this week at, like, good timing.
Like, we're talking about the journey of that John Carroll wide receiver. He's like, all right, here we go.
I make my Kenneth Murray bit.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Final segment here of day 1 of the 2026 Panini Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. Welcome back into the draft show presented by Miller Lite with Tommy Yarish and Nick Harris. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Special thanks to Ephesians Pryock out of Washington. Our only interview today. We'll have more tomorrow, I promise. We'll get here earlier. It'll be a big thing. It'll be great. However, it was cool getting to see the connection that you had with him from the California ranks, and then, as you mentioned in the earlier segment, kind of the way he's bounced around a bit and ended up where he is now.
Yeah, certainly. I remember going out and covering him and a couple of other players at Bishop Alemany way back during COVID times and when California was playing a spring season because of everything that was happening back in 2020 and 2021.
Man.
But, no, good player, and he's always had that length. That length has always – that length has brought him to this stage. Now it's how can he use that length a little bit more here at the next level to carve out not only a role in this league but time in this league and work out a second contract in this league. That's going to be big for him. But, yeah, Ephesians Pryock, that's going to be another fascinating one when we talk about on day 3 as a potential secondary ad.
And that's why we put him on our list, was because Dallas in that 2 picks in the first round and then a ton of day 3 picks, like he might be in that conversation if they don't go secondary or maybe if they want to double dip in the secondary as well. That's still very much so on the table. All right, we're just a couple hours away from practice getting started here in Mobile. It's an afternoon practice, later than what they normally have done, which is nice for us. That sounds great on our side of things. But we'll head out to Hancock Whitney Stadium, home to South Alabama, here in a little bit and watch practice. Who are some of the guys you're excited to see day 1 on the field in this environment, and who's going to stand out to you today?
Yeah, some of the guys we talked about yesterday. Colton Hood from the corner from Tennessee. I'm excited to see him. Romello Height, the edge from Texas Tech. How much does that size, like Nick mentioned earlier in the show, really affect him? Can those long arms that he's got nullify all the concerns that you may have about him? Just kind of scrolling down the list here some more. There's another safety that I was wanting to talk about. South Carolina, Jalen Kilgore, 6 foot, 211 pounds. I'm interested to see him. When I was watching some of that C-State tape, Kilgore was a guy that also kind of jumped out when I was watching. So interested to see that. And then from Indiana, the national champions, Kalen Black at running back, 5'9", 208 pounds. He's a tank, and he can move people when he lowers that shoulder. So a lot of really, really, really fun players that I'm excited to get a look at this week.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of speed through. Dalen Everett, corner out of Georgia. That's one for sure. Romello Height, we've talked about him as well. TJ Parker, defensive end out of Clemson. Goodness. I'm fascinated to see what Garrett Nussmeier does this week. Healthy, you would assume so. He didn't play for the back half of the season in Baton Rouge. What does this draft process really look like for Garrett Nussmeier? Because there were times, and I think you could still make the case that he has first round type of arm talent, but it's not as consistent. The turnovers have to come down. So where eventually does his stock kind of balance out? Is he a second, third round guy, or does he play himself into that back end of the first round? I'm curious to see what the process looks like for him. And then a day 3 linebacker that I think we're going to end up talking about a lot more as time goes on is Bryce Betcher out of Oregon. That's one that I think could improve his stock this week.
I like that. And I know in the past there's also been some tight ends that have stood out from the Senior Bowl and some of these one-on-one drills. I think a big receiving threat at tight end that I've got an eye on, Tanner Koziel out of Houston. Big-bodied tight end. I mean, he's just a tremendous athlete and somebody that I don't think we've talked about enough on the draft show. Probably a day 2, day 3 guy, but still somebody that can really earn some money this week if he goes off the way that he's anticipated to go off. He was thought to be maybe a top 5 draft, or not top 5 draft pick, but a top 5 tight end in the draft class up until this season. Kind of bounced around throughout his career as well, and didn't have the season he anticipated down in Houston, but still a lot of talent, and he's got the frame for it as well.
He might still be a top 5 tight end.
I think he's legit.
I think.
Yeah.
He is tough as nails, man. I mean, he
consensus-wise, I don't think people are very high on him, and I don't know why.
Well, don't consider me people then, because I love Koziel. I think he is tough. I watched a lot of Houston football this year, and the hits this kid took, he was
the best player on their offense.
The fact that he was able to get up and continue playing on half of these, it felt like every game he would have to get looked at on the sideline, come back in the game, and he would still make the big play for you. So, 6'6", 245 pounds. Consider me a big fan of Tanner Koziel.
I think if he would have had a quarterback, he would have been really good.
He did have a quarterback. See, he's trying to draw me off.
Connor, wait.
Failed rage bait there, Kyle.
You're so smart. All right, that's going to do it for us here on the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite. Hope you had fun with us. We're going to have some more interviews tomorrow here from Radio Row. Plus, we'll be able to break down the first day of practices between the American team and the national team. Can't wait for this. It's one of our favorite weeks of the year. Be sure to follow Nick Harris. Nick Harris from Fort Worth Star-Telegram. What is your new Twitter handle? I forget.
Nick Harris, FWST.
I almost said Nick Harris DC or whatever it used to be.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah, R.I.P. to that. It's been like a year and a half, and I still don't get it right. And then we've got Tommy Yarish, Tommy_Yarish, Kyle_Yeomans. We'll have live updates and different conversations that we'll have with the front office throughout the week as well, available on DallasCowboys.com and the Cowboys streaming platforms. Once again, special thanks to Scott Purcell and everybody back at the Star in Frisco for putting this all together. For Tommy Yarish, Nick Harris, I'm Kyle Yeomans. We'll catch you tomorrow with more of the Draft Show here from the 2026 Panini Senior Bowl.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!